excited to have you and for chatting with you. Your journey's been so inspiring. I mean, the picture of you, in that Afrin shot coming out of the desert. I think any kid growing up in the 80s and 90s is gonna have that song and a picture of you so well etched in their memories. And now speaking to today, it's really surreal because I never thought I'd be chatting with you. So
that's very sweet.
Now, 2 big years, 2018 because you had your babies, 2019 because you have your book, right?
My third baby, you could say.
Your third baby, the memoir, right? So, tell me, how did it all come about? Like, how the last 10 months? How old are they? 10 months now, right?
They're 11 months.
11 months now.
1 year next month, June.
Wow. So, tell us all about that. Like, how's this last 11 months been?
I've just started a little bit before the last 11 months because it's been magnificent, but it hasn't. Our babies haven't come into our life without some challenges, of course. Our babies were born via surrogacy, and ideally I wanted our babies to be born in India, but India went and banned commercial surrogacy. Literally a week before we were supposed to begin, and that was really heartbreaking, I have to say. And I don't endorse it at all because I think it's literally throwing out the babies with the bathwater. It had to be regulated surrogacy in India, but banning it often leads to these unethical practices just going underground. So, anyways, that's my rant on commercial surrogacy in India. But in the meantime, I'm a very determined bugger, and I'm an Aryan. I don't know if that means anything to you, but I'm very, very determined. And so I actually ended up researching and finding another country, the Republic of Georgia, which used to be part of the USSR, and it's just actually north of north of Turkey. And that's where surrogacy, international surrogacy, has been going on there in a very ethical way, in a very transparent way. It's completely legal. There's no black and white about it. So we have an agency who's helping us with that. And so I actually told them to go check out Georgia. And the managing director of the coordinating agency went there, thanked me profusely later because Georgia has the best wine. So it was a whole voyage of discovery for him. And of course, he checked out the medical facilities and said, okay, you are our couple zero starting this entire adventure and process. For us, we don't have any experience doing this in Georgia, but if you're willing to go ahead, I've checked it out, I think it looks like a great option. So we did. So we started our surrogacy journey with our babies out of Georgia, but I have to also say simultaneously, in the background, I was finishing off my work for an Amazon series called 4 Shots More Please. So that was going on, and then I was also finishing the manuscript for my memoir, Close to the Bone. I had to submit it to my publisher, and I submitted my manuscript literally the day before my babies were born. So June 22nd, my babies were born. June 21st, I submitted my manuscript. So there was a lot going on simultaneously in my life, but I've come to accept that that's sort of the nature of my life. My life is always, I'm sort of standing in the center of this sort of magnificent whirlwind, and lots of different forces at play. There's serendipity, chance, and faith as well. And of course also my own personal determination and efforts and support, a great deal of emotional support from my little tribe around me. And sort of out of this strange combination, somehow or the other, these beautiful aspects of my life have been born.
Right. But tell me, how did, so when was the time that you said that I am going to take this surrogacy route, and how was the journey? How were those 9 months really once you actually reached Georgia?
I'm a funny bugger. I don't, it didn't bother me at all. As I said, I have a great deal of I have a strong belief in and faith that things will work out. You could say that my belief system, I believe you can divide up everyone in the world into 2 camps. Either you believe that life is for you or against you. And really, if you think about it, all of your behavior patterns and your actions arise out of that. If you believe that life is against you, as in life is a struggle, and things are going to go wrong before they go right, and you know, and my success is at the expense of someone else's success, that will really define you as a person, right? You tend to become perhaps a bit more controlling. These are from my personal observations, right? You tend to become a little bit more controlling, you know, you tend to become a little bit more anxious about things. I now, today, after many years, it didn't come naturally, after many years of my own personal self-development, I come from the second camp, or the first camp, which is I believe that life is for me. So I make a decision, I do everything that I can, and then I let go. You know, so I was really cool about it. And of course, I was kept very, very busy. In the meantime, I didn't have a lot of time to sort of sit and dwell on things. We did not go to Georgia until the last 2 weeks before babies were born. I didn't station myself for 9 months in Georgia. We were getting updates. I was super busy. But so, you know, in a nutshell, I do have a great faith that things will work out. And with our surrogacy journey, it was a journey because it did not work out right in the beginning. You know, we tried with India, it didn't happen in India. Then we tried with another country, even that didn't happen. And yes, there were moments of frustration for sure, but I believed that ultimately, if it was meant to be, it would manifest. And
that
it took a little bit of
not having it at one go. Did that bother you?
No.
It was just your faith that said, just go on.
Well, faith and determination and stubbornness. I'm extremely stubborn as well. You know, faith sometimes implies that you're very passive, and I'm not a passive person, but at the same time you have to know when to exert control and when to let go. That's the art of life, I think.
Because I know that you know, a few of my friends, and when they've tried this, they've been there, they've been stationed for 9 months. They just don't want anything to go wrong.
I understand,
So
I understand. No, I understand, and I don't judge anyone who's like that. But you know, my personal philosophy has risen out of my personal life experiences, and a lot of it is embedded in having failed and fallen, and having fallen well, having failed spectacularly has taught me a lot about myself and what it means to rise out of those circumstances. And you know, I incorporate a lot of Buddhist philosophies, I think, naturally into the way that I live my life today.
So tell me, taking a few steps behind, what was that point, like when you were battling with so many other things in life, including cancer? What was that point? Like, did it ever bother you that my biological clock is ticking and I need to do something about it? Was that ever a conflict in your head that you were?
No.
Or that time survival was the big thing?
No. Yeah, I mean, when it came to cancer, no. Although cancer, I would say, is probably a watershed moment. That's when I realized it was only post-cancer that I started feeling that perhaps I wanted to be a mother. But for most of my life, I didn't want to be a mother.
No.
It was as simple as that. I had no desire.
And how old were you then?
40.
This was 40.
Yeah.
So that's then
I had no
maternal instincts at its peak.
No, and I don't think it's even a matter of maternal instincts. I just really realized that it was a conscious decision, but I had other priorities in my life. Travel was always a very big priority. The lifestyle I was leading did not support having a child. I was very independent as well. And I had no desire either to get married or to have a partner, like zero desire.
And then how did all of this change? And what was that moment where you said, I need happy?
I'm still in shock. I'm still in complete and utter shock that today, like, you know, like sometimes I like wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my God, I just had this dream that I'm married and I have 2 kids. And I'm like, oh shit, it's real. So I am that girl, that's the thing, you know, I am that girl that just literally, genuinely never had that desire. And I think that it's legitimate. And I have a lot of girlfriends for whom they don't have any overwhelming desire to be mothers.
No.
And I completely endorse
so
that.
For you, when was that moment when you said, no, I
There's no particular moment. No. My life is not really sort of about that, this is when things change. It happened very gradually. Definitely things change post-cancer. I started thinking, but because cancer helped me to slow down and to reflect, And I had done so much work on myself, sort of personal development work, sort of spiritual work. I had, you might also say, I had no shoulda, woulda, coulda left in my life. Like that was always a bit of a marker. I said I never want to have a should have, would have, could have in my life. And I, in all honesty, didn't really have that.
That was interesting. Reflect on
and it's not to say that I have lost my ambition or that there still aren't a lot of things on my bucket list. I still have a lot of things. But I had immersed myself so profoundly in living from a very instinctual place, in living impulsively.
Yeah.
I had literally lived in about 7 different cities. I would spontaneously just get up one day and move cities. So I lived from that place that was meaningful for me. Everything, I think a lot of things in life are a matter of timing,
right,
as well. So after cancer, and it still wasn't an immediate thing, there wasn't like a switch that happened, but I had time to implement some lifestyle changes that were necessary for me,
yeah,
that I had wanted to implement. So it was a matter of slowing down, of assessing what is important to me and what is not important to me, and just naturally allowing the things that are frivolous or the fat just kind of naturally melted away from my life.
Right. And tell me that moment when you first held them, like in your hands. Just describe that.
So it's an interesting story because we did not know the gender of our kids ahead of time. It was a conscious thing. We didn't want to know. I feel there's so few big surprises left in life, and this is one of them. And the rules in the clinic where the babies were born is only one parent could be present because it was a C-section,
Okay.
With the surrogate. And I actually nominated my husband. I wanted him to have that experience. So I was not there when they were actually born. I was waiting along with my mother-in-law and a few other people. And so the first thing that happened is he walked in and he said, "We have 2 girls." And I still remember my heart just, your heart doing a dance, literally. Like your heart comes alive. It becomes like this little boogie machine in your chest. And it felt really right, but the whole time I had thought that we were going to have 1 boy, 1 girl, and I had chosen names accordingly. So it sounds bizarre, the first thought was like, oh shit, we have to think of different names.
I love this, how moms can come up with like the most bizarre person.
Right, that was the first thing. But then I went into the actual, to the nursery after they had cleaned them up, and they had put them both in the same little cot, and it was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal.
Is there a moment that comes close to that?
Yeah, there are. I honestly am not. I'm not going to say that is the absolute culmination of my life. Here's my opinion as a woman, as a mother, as someone who loves their kids dearly. I believe that motherhood doesn't define me. It's one more part of me leading a very rich and full life and something beautiful to share. And I believe that I'm shepherding these 2 beautiful souls into the world. I don't feel a sense of ownership over them. And I'm telling you that sincerely. And I've sat and I've thought about it very deeply and tried to find whether I'm lying to myself. I do this strange practice with myself. Am I just saying that? These are great words, or do I actually believe in my...
A lot of people do that.
A lot of people, we do that. You have to catch yourself, and I do it also sometimes.
So
I have to, because this is too important, you know what I mean? So,
we do these strange things.
We do these strange things, and I really do believe, because I have, there's sort of a philosopher, a spiritual philosopher that I've been following a long time, and he often said it. And even Rumi has a great saying where he says, these children, they don't belong to you, they come through you. I don't have that incredible possessiveness. Don't ask me why or how. I have a great deal of love. And also because I had a great teaching very early on, and I write about this in my book, Close to the Bone, that love and attachment are 2 separate things, but they're often entangled. And I went through a really, really difficult process during the death of my mother, of trying to disentangle them, because I realized that I was making her stick around for a long time when she was in great pain, physical pain, rather than let her go. And that letting her go, as painful as it was true love, rather than making her, it was the attachment. So that was a great teaching, difficult, but so with my children, I adore them, but bringing them up in a way where they're belonging to a community, know. I mean, here we are in India, and my kids are being passed around to my friends' houses.
Yeah.
I want them to be very comfortable in someone else's lap. I don't want them to be like mama, 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 only, you know, running after me. I don't know, maybe that's also a function of, because I'm having kids much later in life. I mean, I'm 47, you know. And so it's a very, very interesting experience having children, and I'm trying to apply a lot of my teachings and my own, you know, spiritual practice with having
that's
kids.
great, because you know, I know that so many, and having doing kids chakras for the last 5 years, I know so many women just the minute they're mothers, they put everything else on the back burner. They lose themselves, and I like the fact that you're putting so many of these other practices into play while nurturing them, because one cannot stop because of
they shouldn't cancel that. They should. But you know, I also understand that it's really hard. Like, I won't lie. I mean, I have 2 nannies.
Yeah.
Right? We can afford to have 2 nannies.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily spending those long sleepless nights with my kids. You know, my nannies are wonderful and loving, and one of them has been there since they were born, so she's like a real auntie. I want my kids, you know, I want to bring them onto sets. I want to bring them, you know, I want to integrate them into our life.
Yes, that's so true.
I want to be able to travel with them extensively. It's not easy.
It's never going to be.
And it's never going to be, but at least I have the intention of doing that. But I have days also where I'm just like, I'm too tired. You know what I mean? And I have days when I want space from my kids.
And
I think that's very...
The tech detox there, right? Tell us about that.
That's super important. I have to go on a retreat. I try to schedule a retreat several times a year. For me, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. I would actually argue it's a necessity for everybody in today's world. We're living in this bizarre sound bath of opinions and noise, and you know, the world is so noisy. So again, to find your inner clarity, to find your stillness, to make you a better mother and to make you a better human being, you have to cut yourself off from all of that stuff. So I do it, you know, I do detoxes, I go to like retreat centers, I try to schedule, you know, 2-3 times a year where it's about the eating, but also about like, you know, cutting myself off from social media and from people. Like,
have you done that after kids?
Not as much as I
Not as much.
No, no.
Now that you're back into the business, do you feel like the tech is important? Because everybody's on social media, and if you're not going to be there, is it going to impact?
No, I've been on social media.
Or you need to be relevant, like as they call it. This relevant is like...
Oh my God, I want to take that word out of our vocabulary. It's just so meaningless, actually. No, I've been on social media a long time. I have been working for a long time. I'm not suddenly back. I've been working in India. I had a career abroad.
Right.
So, you know, I've never not worked. And I don't understand any of it. No, I'm not saying like I cut off, but I am on social media. And I understand the utility of it. I understand how important it is, particularly now when I have a memoir coming out close to the bone, when I have something that's so deeply personal, my words. This creation is purely and entirely me. So yes, I am using my social media in order to leverage that. I'm using my profile in order to leverage that. I've been using my profile ever since I was diagnosed with cancer in order to be able to talk about things that are relevant to me. Relevant, I use that word. Relevant, but deeply important to me, you know? So, you know, there is a balance that you have to find. I think it's fine as long as it doesn't control you, as long as you control it.
How does all that work, Lisa? Like, kids, you have your memoir, you have...
I have not figured it out.
Web series. You're doing so much. So where's the time?
I would love to. I wish that I had like an easy formula for it. And I don't want to give the impression that I'm on top of it all, or I have it figured out. I have nothing figured out. But maybe because I come from this place where I'm like, I don't know what the hell is going on, somehow or the other.
I just think it's so important for all of you guys to say, especially people who have the voice and who can cause it back, to say, I don't have it all figured out.
I don't have it all figured out. And I think it's really important to say that and accept that. At the same time, you know, of course, you know, I prioritize. Yes, I mean, I have other people who make schedules for me when it comes to work and say, this is where you have to be on this date, and I'm pretty good about that. You know, I mean, I've just come off of a night shoot. I've been shooting pretty intensely, so then I have to space it out a little bit. I try to like then take off a day to spend time with my kids. You know, it's okay. I don't have it all figured out. You know, my one friend gave me really good advice after my kids were born. And, you know, this is, I think, probably the advice I would give someone else. And she said two things. Number one, a lot of people are going to give you a lot of advice when it comes to your kids.
Yeah.
Shut them out.
Yeah.
It's your kids. Trust yourself. Trust your instinct with their mom.
Yeah.
Number two, your kids, they don't need a perfect mom. They need a happy mom.
It's so true.
And that has really stayed with me. So, you know, that's why I continue to work. I don't, strictly speaking, have to work.
Yeah.
I choose to work. I'm at that stage in my life. But I work on things that are meaningful for me. And I would love that my girls see that their mother, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
is working, has a
Yeah.
voice in the world, is, you know, maybe creating small little ripples of change.
Yeah.
I think that would be really important on me.
It's so true.
And that has really stayed with me. So, you know, that's why I continue to work. I don't, strictly speaking, have to work.
Yeah.
I choose to work. I'm at that stage in my life. But I work on things that are meaningful for me. And I would love that my girls see that their mother, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
is working, has a
Yeah.
voice in the world, is, you know, maybe creating small little ripples of change.
Yeah.
I think that would be really important on me.
So tell me, what's a day in Lisa's life?
I've been
I like that way she's laughing about it.
I kind of read this question because there is no one day. There is no typical day.
There's no typical
Like,
day
that's
in your
hard to say.
life.
But you know, I'm sort of, that's, to be honest, that's my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think the routine at this point in my life doesn't suit me. I've been living like this since I was 16. It would freak me out if I actually knew what I was doing every single day.
So are you going to be raising your twins just the way your parents raised you? Like I know a lot of people say that if I do half a good job as my mom in raising me or my dad in raising me, I think I've arrived. Do you feel that? Or how's it going to be different?
I think that there will be some essence of it will be there for sure. But the world has also changed so much since my parents raised me. I think also my parents gave me a very beautiful, idyllic upbringing. But you know, they were also very rebellious. So much has changed. The context has changed. Imagine my father's a Bengali, my mother's Polish. You know, they defied both their families and ended up bringing me up in Canada. And yet I was very deeply connected with India. We used to go back to Calcutta, and that ended up being my strongest emotional connection. So it's a very unusual upbringing. But you know, it was also at a time pre-globalization, pre the digital world. You know, there was so much of context. Like for instance, I was like a free-range chicken. Like nobody, you know, all of my time was spent unsupervised because that's how kids were brought up. You know, I didn't have anyone running after me and giving me my snacks or reminding me that I have to go for piano lessons. I just used to spend all my time, all my free time alone in the neighborhood, riding my bicycle or dreaming on my back in the grass. This is in Canada, of course. And Calcutta, I was just surrounded by my cousins, but I was still left to my own devices, you know, wandering around our ancestral home and, you know, discovering little nooks and crannies. And so, you know, it really fed my imagination. But the world has changed, you know. I don't really know that it's a viable thing to let your kids be completely unsupervised. So how can I say that? I mean, I think it's a lot of it is context.
And how's it to raise twins? Like,
man, you need a village. You need
more than a village.
You need more than a village. I've got my tribe. I'm very clear about that. You know, aside from my nannies, I have such incredible friends. Touch wood, I'm so grateful for them. And one of the reasons why my husband and I chose to come back to India is so I could be close to my tribe, you know. Especially when you're a working mom, you know, and I've landed in the middle of a very heavy schedule because, you know, I'm filming and it's the debut of the release of my book, Close to the Bone, which is a huge event in my life. And so, you know, I'm very realistic. I just don't have the energy to spend on my kids all the time right now, which is fine because I'll make up for it, and my kids are quite young, and I love that they are, as I said, very comfortable within this beautiful tribe of people. You know, I think they learn something precious from each and every person.
Tell me your advice to women, especially in the business of, you know, in the beauty and glamour business, who are looking to start a family, or even otherwise, not even if they're not part of the business, keep postponing this for like, not now. when the time will be
Yeah.
right, when the time will be right. Do you feel like there is a right time?
Yeah, it is timing. Is there a right time?
No.
There isn't a right time for anyone. I think we shouldn't be giving each other advice. I think we should just simply be supporting people's decisions. That's all. Because there is pressure. I mean, we do. Look, one thing we have to acknowledge in India is there is a lot of conditioning that has been internalized, even in women who are strong and independent. It's a very patriarchal society.
Yeah.
We have internalized these attitudes that, you shouldn't put off having a kid for too long, and you must become a mother. That is the culmination of your life. And here's what a mother should look like.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit, isn't it? So we actually have to change the conversation around and say, I support you if you don't want to become a mother now.
That's okay.
I support you.
Yeah.
That's okay. And if you want to become a mother much later in your life, or if you want to become a mother early in your life, I also support you. I support whatever decision you made. We have to change the narrative.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to ask you couple of quick questions, and you need to respond in a word.
Oh no.
Your response to women can't have it all.
Untrue.
Okay. Being a parent to a twin is like. Sorry?
I had to reply in a simple word.
Yeah.
Is
Number
like is like becoming a milkshake.
I don't think I know. Please respond to that.
I feel like I'm a milkshake. And then suddenly, somehow or the other, the actual result is really delicious.
Alright. Trust me, nobody's answered it like
No.
that.
Okay.
Raising your kids in India is
The best place.
people who judge parents who've opted for surrogacy.
Need.
She's
How do
washing.
I- yeah,
She's washing her words.
Am I washing my words? No. I think just need to mind their own business.
Okay. Your response when they say your kids are as beautiful as you.
My kids are more beautiful.
If you had more time, you would.
Write more books.
I wish people would not.
Judge.
Moms who think working moms are not good enough or selfish.
Have a lot of time on their hands.
Okay. Your mom inspiration.
My mom inspiration is my mom.
The one thing you wish you could do better.
Patience.
If the genie gave a mom one wish to make her life easier, what would it be for you?
Multiple hands.
What is the one thing you regret about your work?
That I was not honest with myself in the beginning of my career.
The one lesson your kids have learned because you think your kids will learn because you work.
I think they will learn how to find their voice, find their own voice in the world.
Okay. The mom that makes you wonder, how does she do it?
Chrissy Teigen.
What is close to the bone about? And walk us through a few pieces. Because actually why don't you take a step back, tell us what is close to the bone not about?
Yes, first of all, Close to the Bone is a memoir. I wish I could find another way of describing it, but someone else who read it described it quite well. They called it a travelogue of insights, discoveries, missteps, and triumphs. So it's about me, but also not just about me. It's also about a lot of the eras that I've lived through, the places I've seen, the things I've experienced, starting right from the beginning. In fact, even from before the beginning, I've obviously included a bit of my personal history and my parents' personal history, because my parents were the original rebels,
Yeah.
And I thought that to understand myself, I have to also understand certain aspects of myself. When I reflected on it, I said I have to actually understand my parents' decisions. And that was also the same sort of decision that was made in writing the book, because yes, there is an aspect of talking about my cancer that comes right at the end of the book. But I could not write about cancer in isolation from the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Every part of our life is connected to the part that came before, whether you consciously realize it or not. And we are all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. So that's one part of Close to the Bone. The other part of it is it's my debut as a writer.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to share is that, you know, if you ask me what I always wanted to become, it's a writer. I never wanted to be in this line, which obviously begs the question, well, what the hell are you doing in this line?
Yeah.
And that was another reason, but that's another reason why I wrote the book, because my career started in such a bizarre, surreal, serendipitous way that I felt that I have to also write about it, you know.
It just happened to you, like the show.
Well, it literally just happened to me, but it's more complex than that, and that's why I've written about it, you know. If this had not happened, if this had not happened, if this had not happened, I wouldn't have landed up in India and started my career as a model.
Right.
So everything has been ruled by sort of fate and chance at that certain point of time, and it's genuinely how it happened.
Right.
And it sounds very strange to a generation today who make very conscious decisions, but you have to remember when I started in 1991, the entertainment industry was not what it is today. I think also is about removing masks, right? We all are the victim of labels and other people's perceptions, right? Mother is one label. You say mother, and there's a whole bunch of perceptions that come with that. You say actress, model, there's a whole bunch of perceptions that come with that, you know? So I felt the need to challenge that, because I am not what people think that I am. And I played along that game for a while, but you know, again, with cancer and announcing my cancer publicly, that has obviously opened a new kind of dimension to my public perception, but it's not deep enough. And I've always wanted to take hold of my own narrative. I think that's important for every single woman. And that's what I was finally able to do. And I've always wanted to write a book. I always felt that I would become a writer because I'm an introvert, because I don't like being around people. And I know that that again sounds bizarre. Well, what the hell are you doing as an actress? But that's why I wrote the book.
Right.
There's a lot of very peculiar circumstances to my life story. And I felt maybe I have an interesting story to tell, but not just that, but it will also mark my debut as a writer. And I certainly hope to write more books after this. But I hope I'm giving the impression that this is a book that is not just about cancer. And in fact, I have to say that because if you're looking at this book also as a cancer survivor, this is not the book for you. There is obviously, I go in depth into my diagnosis and how I handled that. But there's another book in me that happens when I relapse, which is not covered in this book, or perhaps another book in me that I'd like to write about how I believe I actually healed myself using also complementary therapies, but that is not covered in this book.
Tell me, Lisa, when you write a book, and especially a memoir, how much of it do you let go and how much of it do you share?
So how much did I reveal of myself? Let me put it this way. I actually slashed open a vein for this book. That's how I have it describing it. You know, I wrote, you know, certain passages with my own blood. And it sounds a little bit dramatic, but it's true. It's very, very candid. And I believe in that, but I am a true believer in truth. The thing that I have a big issue with is hypocrisy and hiding behind masks. And, you know, the first part of my life was about that, was about playing the game because I was young and vulnerable, and, you know, a lot of my profession is about masks and manipulation. And it never sat well with me, so finally I get a chance to actually speak from a place that's truthful to me.
I think when you talk about it, like when you spoke of your diagnosis of cancer, does it become easier? Or do you embrace it better?
I
Because
always have.
everybody seems to be, and one is of course, because I feel when you come from a position of power, when you talk about it, I think it makes it kind of gives the right messages that it's not a problem. You know, I don't know.
Or it's not a taboo.
It's not a taboo.
You know, it's not a taboo. I mean, of course, you know, there's this idea that anything that is hidden, anything that is in the shadows has power over you.
Yes.
And as soon as you bring something out into the light, it ceases having power over you. So that's been really important to me. I somehow have managed to cultivate a sense of objectivity about it, but I think that that's more the skills of a writer. I'm an observer, I'm a natural observer. I can be in the middle of a conversation, and yet there's a part of me that is watching everything, you know, it's observing. So I have that peculiar quality. So even with my cancer, I was sort of perhaps while I was going through it, I was sort of already writing a book in my mind,
Right.
and watching and picking up on little details. That's just how I'm that's just how I'm
But
wired.
when you spoke of it, not many people were talking about it.
There was no one else
There was no one else.
at
So-
that moment.
At that moment. So how did you, again, was the moment you said that I have to talk about this?
Yes, there is, and I've written about it in my book to underline how that happened. But I basically, again, was feeling very suffocated by what was being asked about me, like hide it, don't talk about it, So that didn't sit well with me. If it sat well with me, that would have been fine. And I honestly don't judge someone.
Yeah.
We should not judge each other.
Yeah.
If you are uncomfortable with talking about your diagnosis, you must be truthful to that. I was uncomfortable with not talking about my diagnosis, and that's simply the reason why I chose to go public.
Okay. And now we come to the last bit of it, where we actually ask you 33 questions. And again, you just need to
Okay,
just go very quickly.
okay. I'm not fond of these, I'll have you know, but let's go along with it.
Okay. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To make everybody truthful.
It's a good one. Who was the last person you talked on the phone?
My agent, my manager,
Who was the last person you sent a text to?
my husband.
My memoir is
A travelogue of personal insights, experiences, missteps, and triumphs.
best gift you've ever received.
My babies.
The best advice you've received so far.
I'm going to share the advice that my friend shared with me when I became a mother, which is that my girls don't need a perfect mother, they need a happy mother.
Perfect. The best thing someone told you when you were battling with cancer.
When I wanted to express my thanks, because I received a lot of support from India, from a lot of people in the world, from nurses, from strangers. Everyone said to me, don't thank me, just pay it forward. So I want to say that if you receive a great gesture of kindness, pay forward that gesture.
The last photograph you took.
My babies and me getting my makeup done with my babies on.
Your favorite social media app.
Instagram.
How much time do you spend on it?
I want to say 15 minutes to half an hour in the day.
Okay. What's your beauty secret?
Right now, apple cider vinegar and hot water.
Heels or flats?
Flats.
Your next book will be called
More beautiful for having been broken.
what do you call that? More beautiful.
For having been broken.
One thing you would tell everyone who's looking to move base for twins is
Think twice.
yeah.